The anime begins with a shy girl named Hidori, who is an introvert with no friends. Because of her reserved nature, she is often called Bachi, or loner in Japanese. Since elementary school, Bachi had always been alone. On field trips, while her classmates played together, she would stick close to her teacher for company. In middle school, nothing changed. Her only contacts were her family members. One day, while watching television, Bachi saw a band performing. She was especially inspired by the guitarist, who shared a story about once being an introvert like her. This sparked something in Bachi. Determined to follow in the guitarist's footsteps, she borrowed her father's guitar and began practicing tirelessly, hoping to transform herself. 3 years later, Bachi had entered high school with a declaration to make her high school days unforgettable. But after a month, reality remained the same. She still had no friends, and her only companion was her guitar. Despite her struggles, Bachi found comfort in creating music. Under the name Guitar Hero, she uploaded her self-made songs online. Since middle school, she had tried various ways to make friends, like showing off her CD collection, band merchandise, or playing music to impress others. Yet, none of her efforts succeeded. One day, while reading the comments on her uploaded music, Bachi got an idea. She decided to dress in band attire to catch the attention of other music lovers. Unfortunately, her plan didn't work, even though someone was secretly noticing her. After school, Bachi sat alone in a park, feeling dejected. She even considered dropping out of school, thinking she didn't belong. Just then, a cheerful girl with bright yellow hair named Nijika approached her. Spotting the guitar Bachi carried, Nijika greeted her warmly. Nijika explained that her band's guitarist had disappeared last minute and asked Bachi to fill in. Before Bachi could process what was happening, Nijika grabbed her hand and whisked her away, leaving her no chance to refuse. As they walked together, it was clear that Nijika was the complete opposite of Bachi. Nijika was bubbly, outgoing, and brimming with positivity, a stark contrast to Bachi's quiet and introverted personality. They soon arrived at the live house where Nijika's band was set to perform. It was still early, and the venue was empty, which made Bachi feel at ease in the silence. There, Nijika introduced her to Rio, the band's bassist. Rio was calm and collected, adding a different vibe to the group. After introductions, Nijika handed Bachi the song arrangements for their performance. Since the band was still small and lacked a dedicated vocalist, Bachi was also expected to add vocals using her skills. Rehearsals began, but things didn't go smoothly. Although Bachi could expertly play technically demanding songs, like those by Dragon Force, she struggled to synchronize with the band's rhythm. Her inability to play in sync discouraged her, and she quickly lost motivation. Nijika and Rio tried to cheer her up, but found it challenging to lift her spirits. To change the mood, they started a conversation about guitar heroes. Through this discussion, Bachi realized that her own music videos had inspired people online. This gave her a boost of confidence, and she decided to try again, even though her nerves still lingered. Understanding her anxiety, Nijika and Rio suggested that Bachi perform while hiding inside a box. They hoped this would help her feel less exposed on stage. Encouraged by their words, Bachi regained some courage. Finally, it was time for the live performance of Kesika Band. During the live performance, Bachi followed her friend's suggestion and wore a box to hide herself while playing. At first, the band performed well, but toward the end, Bachi started to lose her confidence again. Despite this, the experience gave her hope and made her feel more optimistic about changing her introverted nature. The next day, Bachi was told to meet her bandmates at the same place, Starry, the live house. However, when she arrived, she felt too nervous to go in alone and waited outside the door. After a while, Nijika and Rio arrived, and the three of them entered together. Once inside, they weren't sure what to talk about, so they decided to pick topics randomly. The chosen topic was school. Bachi shared that she went to a different school from Nijika and Rio. She explained that she had chosen a school far from her home to keep her past a secret. During the conversation, Bachi realized she had something in common with Rio. They both enjoyed being alone. Their discussion then shifted to their favorite music, which helped them bond further, and eventually to their plans for the next live performance. They decided they needed a vocalist to add more energy and variety to their performance. Najika also brought up an important point. Their live shows weren't free. The band had to split profits with the live house, and if they didn't meet the target earnings, they would have to cover the difference themselves. Najika then suggested that they all get part-time jobs to save money just in case. Hearing this, Bocce was reminded of her traumatic experience from a previous part-time job, where she accidentally went viral on social media. The memory made her nervous, but Najika reassured her. She suggested that Bocce work at Starry as a cashier, a more familiar and low-pressure environment. In the end, Bocce reluctantly agreed, and Najika took charge of handling the band's finances. That night, Bocce was so anxious about her first day at work that she tried to make herself sick. She took an ice bath and slept with the fan on, hoping to catch a fever. Unfortunately for her, she woke up perfectly healthy. Before she could think of an excuse to skip work, Najika called to remind her to come. With no way out, Bocce headed to Starry. At Starry, Bocce was greeted by a stern-looking woman, which scared her at first. But she soon found out that the woman was Seika, Najika's older sister and the manager of Starry. Najika had purposely invited Bocce to work there, so she wouldn't feel as tense, knowing she'd be working with someone familiar. Najika began explaining how to make drinks, but her instructions were so fast that Bocce struggled to keep up. Despite the initial confusion, Bocce was pleased to learn that Starry also served food, making it feel more welcoming. As Bocce slowly started to get the hang of things, her confidence grew. She practiced remembering Najika's instructions and felt motivated when she saw herself making progress. But when customers arrived, her anxiety returned. Bocce froze and avoided looking at the customers, unsure of what to do. Najika stepped in to assist her, reminding her that when a band performs, they're allowed to take short breaks between sets. Later, Rio stopped by Starry. Najika had asked Rio to watch the performance of a well-known band playing that night to learn from their style. Seeing this, Bocce realized how important it was to value the audience's experience. She decided not to waste the customer's time and money with a poor performance and resolved to improve herself, even if it was just a little bit at a time. As the evening went on, Bocce began to feel more comfortable. She even managed to make eye contact with some customers, though she was still a little nervous. On her way home, Bocce felt happy. The job wasn't as scary as she had imagined, and she had started to feel closer to her bandmates. Together, they decided to search for a new vocalist, marking another step forward for their band. The next day, the effects of Bocce's ice bath and sleeping with the fan on finally caught up with her, and she came down with a fever. Luckily, by Monday, she had recovered and was able to return to school. While she still felt hesitant, being part of a band and having a part-time job gave her a new sense of excitement. For the first time, Bocce felt like she was breaking free from her introverted routine. One day during class, the topic of bands came up and Bocce wanted to join the conversation. However, her nerves got the best of her, and she stayed silent, ending up alone once again. During lunch, she sat by herself, daydreaming about her future. She imagined becoming famous one day and sharing her journey of transforming from a shy introvert to a successful musician. As she daydreamed, Bocce overheard some classmates talking about someone with an amazing singing voice. Curious, she glanced at the student they were talking about. When she saw that the person, Ikuyo, was an outgoing extrovert, Bocce immediately felt intimidated and gave up on approaching her. Still, she decided to follow Ikuyo from a distance. Unfortunately, Bocce's stalking was short-lived as Ikuyo caught her in the act. Startled, Bocce froze, unsure of what to say. Ikuyo, being direct and confident, asked why she was being followed, causing Bocce to panic and run away. Her struggle to communicate made it even harder to interact with someone as cheerful and outgoing as Ikuyo. Later, Bocce mustered the courage to ask Ikuyo to join Kesika Band. However, Ikuyo declined, explaining that she couldn't play any instruments and felt guilty about abandoning her previous band. Despite this, Ikuyo showed genuine interest in music and admired Bocce's guitar skills, asking if she could learn from her. Unable to refuse, Bocce agreed. After school, Bocce invited Ikuyo to Starry, but Ikuyo looked uneasy. She hesitated because she realized that Kesika Band was the group she had run away from. When they arrived, Ikuyo immediately apologized to Najika and Rio, admitting that she had lied about knowing how to play the guitar and had fled out of shame. She explained how everyone worried about her disappearance, but her leaving had ultimately led to the band finding Bachi, a talented guitarist. To make up for her mistake, Ikuyo offered to help around Starry by cleaning the studio. Thanks to her outgoing personality, she quickly bonded with everyone, unlike Bachi, who still found socializing challenging. However, Bachi got a chance to shine by teaching Ikuyo how to make drinks, which boosted her confidence a little. As the live house opened and the group relaxed, Ikuyo revealed she was a fan of Rio, which had sparked her interest in music. Bachi felt happy realizing she had found a friend who shared her love for music. During their chat, Ikuyo admitted that she wanted to rejoin Kesika band, but didn't feel worthy because of her past actions. As Ikuyo prepared to leave, Bachi ran after her, but clumsily tripped and fell. Despite Ikuyo's hesitation, Bachi encouraged her not to lie to herself. She had noticed the scratches on Ikuyo's hands, proof that she had been secretly practicing the guitar. This made Najika and Rio agree. They wanted Ikuyo back in the band. With everyone's support, Ikuyo officially rejoined Kesika band, becoming their newest member. Before leaving, Bachi mentioned heading home, thinking her day was over. However, the other members stopped her, insisting they continue practicing. A few days later, Ikuyo became frustrated with her slow progress on the guitar. Even though she had spent money and practiced hard, she still felt like she wasn't improving fast enough. Seeing Ikuyo's struggles reminded Bachi of her own early days learning the guitar. Together, the band encouraged Ikuyo to keep practicing, and over time, she started to show noticeable improvement. As Ikuyo gained more confidence, the group decided she would eventually play the guitar while singing, with Bachi cheering her on every step of the way. Later, Kesika band held a meeting to brainstorm ideas for making the band more exciting beyond their music. They discussed creating merchandise, and Ikuyo volunteered to manage their social media accounts. Meanwhile, Bachi was tasked with writing song lyrics. Though she felt overwhelmed by the responsibility, she couldn't refuse and laughed awkwardly when praised for her creativity. A week later, Bachi was seen practicing her autograph, imagining herself as a famous musician. However, she was still struggling to write suitable song lyrics. Desperate for inspiration, she took out an old notebook filled with lyrics she had written in middle school. To write lyrics that would fit their band's lively vocalist, Bachi tried imagining herself as an extrovert. But no matter how hard she tried, her lyrics ended up sounding awkward and unnatural. Frustrated, she gave up and just wrote whatever came to her mind. While Bachi was focused on writing, she suddenly received a message asking her to meet up with the band. Panicked because her lyrics weren't finished, Bachi rushed to join them. To her relief, the gathering wasn't about lyrics. It was to take promotional photos for Kesika band, as their previous band photo didn't include her. The group began searching for the perfect spot to take photos. Bachi eventually found a great location, but when they reviewed the pictures, only Ikuyo looked good. With her experience on Instagram, Ikuyo's poses were lively and natural. Meanwhile, Bachi felt demotivated when she realized her own photos were stiff and awkward, like her school ID pictures. To cheer her up, they decided to use a fun photo of them all jumping together as their promotional shot. Afterward, they resolved to practice harder so they could perform at bigger venues. But first, they needed a finished song. Hearing this, Bachi felt overwhelmed. The pressure to complete the lyrics increased her stress, so she decided to consult Rio for help. They agreed to meet at a newly opened cafe. When Bachi arrived, she felt out of place since she had never been to such a trendy spot before. The meeting started awkwardly. Rio was naturally quiet, and Bachi didn't know how to start a conversation. After gathering her courage, Bachi showed Rio the lyrics she had written. Rio read through the lyrics and then shared a personal story about her previous band. At first, she had enjoyed being in the group, but when money got involved, the band lost its original spark. Feeling disconnected, Rio left the group. Later, Najika invited her to join a new band, and her passion for music reignited. Because of her experience, Rio encouraged Bachi to write lyrics that reflected her true self. She explained that Kesika band aimed to blend each member's unique style into something original and meaningful. Inspired by Ryo's words, Bocce finally got an idea for the song lyrics. A few days later, Bocce presented the finished lyrics to the rest of the band. The tone was dark and introspective, but it felt authentic, exactly what Ryo had hoped for. With the lyrics complete, the band only needed to finalize their promotional photo. Not long after, Bocce received her first paycheck from her part-time job. She stared at the money, unsure what to do with it. Then she remembered why she had started working in the first place, to cover any shortfalls if their live performance didn't meet the earnings target. This realization dampened her mood. She thought about how expensive being in a band was with all the costs for equipment and performances. But instead of dwelling on it, Bocce decided to listen to the song Ryo had composed using her lyrics. The entire band loved it, and Bocce was thrilled to receive praise for her work. With the song ready, they now just needed Seika's approval to perform next week. When they approached Seika, she seemed hesitant. She pointed out that Kesika band's skills were still lacking and suggested they weren't ready to perform at Starry yet. This upset Nijika, but her friends comforted her, offering words of encouragement. Meanwhile, Seika pulled Bocce aside to explain that the band would need to audition first. If they passed, they would be allowed to perform on Starry's stage. The next day, Bocce, Ryo, and Ikuyo gathered in a quiet, secluded spot to practice without anyone watching. They were still unsure how to improve their band's performance and experimented with new routines, but nothing seemed to work. Day after day passed, and despite their efforts, they couldn't figure out how to make significant progress. The day before the audition, Nijika approached Bocce for a private chat. Nijika asked if Bocce had ever felt forced to join Kesika band since no one had asked her why she played the guitar. Bocce paused, then admitted honestly that at first, she had felt pressured, but now she was genuinely happy to be part of the group. Hearing this, Nijika smiled, satisfied with her response, and walked away. Finally, the day of the audition arrived. Bocce's motivation had shifted. Her original dream of becoming a famous introvert was now replaced by a desire to see Kesika band succeed. During the audition, she focused all her energy on not making mistakes, determined to help her friends achieve their dreams. However, as they performed, Seika's expression remained serious, showing little enthusiasm. Despite their efforts, it was clear that there were still many areas where they needed to improve. In the end, they passed the audition and were allowed to perform. The members of Kesika band were overjoyed, celebrating that their hard work had paid off. Meanwhile, Seika privately acknowledged Bocce's exceptional guitar skills, though she felt Bocce's introverted nature held her back. She believed that if they could help Bocce gain more confidence, the band's potential would soar. Unknown to the band, the audition had been more of a formality. Seika didn't want Nijika to feel like she was receiving special treatment because they were sisters. Seika also wanted Kesika band to grow from the experience, believing it could be a significant first step for them. However, she reminded the group that they would need to sell all their concert tickets to meet the target. At home, Bocce stared at the stack of tickets, unsure how to sell them. Her mother offered to help, but Bocce declined, determined to take responsibility herself. She even made homemade flyers, hoping to attract buyers on her own. Not long after, Bocce received a message from the group chat saying that all the tickets had been sold. Instead of feeling relieved, Bocce was disheartened. She hadn't sold a single ticket and worried that her failure might get her kicked out of the band. Before Bocce could reply to the chat, she encountered a woman named Kikuri, who asked for her help. Bocce assisted her, but was too shy to say goodbye afterward, especially since Kikuri was drunk. Just as Bocce tried to slip away, Kikuri noticed her guitar case and stopped her. It turned out Kikuri was a musician too, and she began encouraging Bocce not to give up. Kikuri talked about how much playing music meant to her and how it helped her cope with life. Meanwhile, the other members of Kesika band grew concerned, as Bocce still hadn't responded to their messages. Kikuri then picked up her bass and started playing, continuing to share her thoughts. Bocce listened quietly as Kikuri explained that she used music and drinking as ways to handle the pressures of adulthood. Hearing this, Bocce sympathized. She thought about her own struggles and how she often felt like a burden to her family. Kikuri reassured Bocce, saying she understood how hard it was to start a band. As they chatted, Kikuri suddenly decided they should perform a live street show. Without giving Bachi a chance to refuse, Kikuri pushed her into joining. Bachi was terrified. She had never performed on the street before. Seeing her anxiety, Kikuri suggested she close her eyes if she felt nervous, reminding her that the real enemy of a musician is fear, not the audience. With Kikuri's encouragement, Bachi took a deep breath, mustered her courage, and began performing alongside Kikuri. For the first time, Bachi experienced the thrill of a live street performance, slowly overcoming her fears one note at a time. As Bachi's confidence started to fade during the street performance, a member of the audience called out to encourage her. The kind words lifted her spirits and gave her the courage to open her eyes, though only one at first. In that moment, Bachi's incredible guitar skills came to life, stunning everyone watching. Kikuri immediately recognized her extraordinary talent, convinced that she was destined to be a remarkable guitarist. Thanks to her performance, Bachi gained new fans who even bought her tickets on the spot. While helping clean up after the performance, Bachi realized she still had one ticket left. Before she could feel discouraged, Kikuri purchased it, saying she wanted to support Bachi. Before heading home, Bachi sent a message to the Kesika Band group chat, apologizing for missing practice and happily announcing that she had sold all her tickets. The next day, Kesika Band planned to meet at Bachi's house to work on their performance outfits. Unfortunately, Rio couldn't join them because she needed to visit a sick relative. When Najika and Nikuyo arrived, they were surprised to see a large banner welcoming them as Kesika Band members. Bachi greeted them enthusiastically, ready for a party. To their amazement, her room was decorated with disco lights, setting a festive atmosphere. During their visit, Bachi's younger sister, Futari, introduced herself to Najika and Nikuyo and quickly became friendly with them. Feeling left out, Bachi told Futari to leave so she wouldn't steal her friends. Once things settled, the group got to work designing their live performance outfits. When they saw Ikuyo's bright and flashy design, it reminded Bachi of a past trauma, an awkward sports festival where she ended up surrounded by a group of paranormal enthusiasts. She shuddered at the memory, but stayed focused on the task at hand. Meanwhile, Bachi's parents came home and were surprised to learn from Futari that Bachi had friends over. Delighted, they invited Najika and Nikuyo to stay for a meal to celebrate Bachi's progress. At the table, Bachi's father, still in disbelief, double-checked with Najika and Nikuyo, asking if they really were his daughter's friends. The girls laughed and reassured him. Later in the afternoon, the group continued working on their designs. Rio sent a message with her completed design, which humorously had a food theme. Bachi also shared her design, but it was so awkward and tacky that it left everyone chuckling. Despite the laughs, the group stayed focused on perfecting their outfits. A few days later, the outfits were finally ready, but new trouble arose. They received news that a big storm was expected on the day of their performance. Disheartened, the group worried that their efforts might go to waste if people couldn't attend because of the weather. Instead of dwelling on the disappointment, they chose to stay positive and prepare as best as they could. On the day of the performance, the rain poured heavily, but the group was determined to give it their all. Shortly after, Kikuri arrived, revealing she was Seika's junior from college. Moments later, Bachi's new fan also showed up, drenched from the rain, but excited to see the band perform. Although the audience turnout was smaller than they had hoped, Kesika Band stepped onto the stage with determination. Their initial performance, however, lacked energy. The small crowd and gloomy weather affected their mood, making their rhythm shaky and the songs less impactful. Realizing this, Bachi refused to let things end on such a low note. In the next song, she took the lead with a stunning guitar solo, showcasing her full talent. Her powerful performance reignited the band's energy. As a result, Najika, Rio, and Nikuyo joined in with their best efforts. The drastic improvement amazed the audience, leaving them thrilled to have braved the rain to attend. After the show, the Starry staff, along with Kikuri, held a small party to celebrate Kesika Band's success. During the celebration, it was revealed that Kikuri was a well-known bassist, famous not just for her talent, but also for her habit of vomiting on audiences due to her constant drinking. Despite this quirk, everyone praised Kesika Band, especially Bachi's extraordinary performance, which had transformed the night into an unforgettable experience. They continued to enjoy the meal together, sharing laughter and warmth in the cozy atmosphere. While sitting at the table, Bachi glanced across the room and noticed two men who were clearly drunk. She couldn't help but imagine a gloomy future for herself, fearing she might one day become a burden to her family. Lost in her thoughts, Bachi fell silent, sinking deeper into her worries. Her friends, used to her sudden retreats in her mind, tried their best to cheer her up. Even Kikuri joined in, reassuring Bachi that life didn't always need to be taken so seriously, so she shout enjoy what she have now. Meanwhile, Najika stepped outside to enjoy the cool evening breeze. After a moment, she turned to Bachi and asked if she was the guitar hero. Bachi froze, realizing her secret was out. Unable to hide it any longer, she apologized for keeping it from them. She explained that she wasn't ready to open up about her online persona yet. Najika wasn't upset. Instead, she admitted that she had also been keeping something to herself. She shared her reason for forming Kesika Band. Najika revealed how much she admired her sister, Seika, who used to be in a band. When Seika left her band, she created Starry to support Najika's dream of performing. Najika explained that forming Kesika Band was her way of honoring her sister and making Starry a place for amazing music. Najika then thanked Bachi for being a vital part of the band, someone who always stepped up to save them during critical moments, like a true hero. Hearing this lifted Bachi's spirits, reigniting her motivation. She felt determined to make Kesika Band not just famous, but successful. Najika smiled, convinced that Bachi's incredible talent could help them achieve their dreams. With the concert behind them, Bachi's school break began. She spent her days playing the guitar endlessly, but deep down, she hoped to spend time with her bandmates. However, inviting them herself felt like an impossible task, so she waited and hoped they would reach out first. Ikuyo actually wanted to invite Bachi, but her shyness around strangers made it difficult to approach her. Najika was busy cleaning up Starry during the break, and Rio spent her holidays watching movies alone. Eventually, they all agreed to invite Bachi on a trip to the beach. The trip was a new experience for Bachi. Together, they enjoyed sightseeing, trying delicious food, and taking lots of photos. For the first time, Bachi felt what it was like to have a fun and carefree summer with friends. Later, Ikuyo suggested visiting a scenic photo spot, but it involved climbing a long flight of stairs. Although an escalator was available, it required payment, so they decided to take the stairs. After some effort, they finally reached the top, where the view was breathtaking. To conclude their trip, they visited a shrine to pray for Kesika Band's success and growth. On their way home, Bachi expressed her gratitude to her friends. Their support and companionship gave her the courage to look forward to the new semester with enthusiasm. The morning of her first day back at school, Bachi woke up from a dream where she was a world-famous musician. Feeling inspired, she headed to school. However, her motivation quickly disappeared when she learned that her class would be running a maid cafe for the school festival. The idea of participating filled her with dread. As she sulked, the student council president announced that students could propose performances for the festival. Hearing this, Bachi immediately perked up. Excited by the opportunity, she rushed to sign up Kesika Band for a performance. In her excitement, she filled out the form perfectly without even realizing it. But once she noticed what she had done, panic set in, and she hid herself in embarrassment before fainting on the spot. Not long after, Bachi woke up in the school clinic and found Ikuyo sitting beside her. Seeing Ikuyo, Bachi's mind raced. She was nervous about how to tell Ikuyo that Kesika Band had been signed up to perform at the school festival. Unable to face the conversation, Bachi pretended to fall asleep to avoid being questioned. The next day, Bachi decided to throw away the registration form, overwhelmed by anxiety about the performance. Later at the studio, she ran into Seika, who noticed her troubled expression and asked what was wrong. Coincidentally, Najika and Rio had just arrived as well. Feeling cornered, Bachi finally explained everything: the registration, her panic, and discarding the form. To her relief, the group agreed that performing at the school festival was a great idea and supported her decision. At school the following day, Ikuyo excitedly approached Bachi with unexpected news. Kesika Band was officially scheduled to perform at the school festival. Bachi froze, realizing that someone must have resubmitted the discarded form. She panicked, unsure how to explain the situation to Ikuyo. Back at the studio, Bachi and her bandmates were deep in thought, trying to figure out how to handle everything. Their stress was obvious, and soon Kikuri arrived, noticing their worried expressions. To lighten the mood, she handed them tickets to her band's live show, encouraging them to take a break and watch a professional performance. That evening, the members of Kesika Band attended Kikuri's live show. The venue was packed, and the energy of the large audience amazed them. When the band started playing, Bachi was captivated by Kikuri's powerful and confident performance. Watching her stage presence, Bachi couldn't help but doubt her own abilities, wondering if she could ever perform so effortlessly. After the show, Kikuri approached them and shared a surprising confession. She used to be an introvert like Bachi. Hearing this inspired Bachi, giving her a boost of confidence. Feeling encouraged, she boldly invited Kikuri to come and watch Kesika Band's performance at the festival. Kikuri accepted with a smile. After returning from the live show, Kesika Band held a meeting to finalize their song choices for the festival. Ryo proposed that Bachi perform a guitar solo during the second song. She explained that it would help both Bachi and Ikuyo become more recognized, especially since the performance was at their school. The idea excited the group and motivated Bachi to do her best. On the way home, Ikuyo hesitated for a moment before apologizing to Bachi. She admitted that she had been the one to resubmit the discarded registration form. To her surprise, Bachi thanked her. She told Ikuyo that because of her actions, she now had an opportunity to shine and become famous. Ikuyo was touched by her words and promised to do everything she could to make their performance a success. To support Bachi further, Ikuyo asked Ryo to organize extra practice sessions for the group. When the school festival began, Najika and Ryo headed to Bachi's classroom to find her. But when they arrived, Bachi was nowhere to be seen. They searched all of her usual hiding spots, but had no luck. Then Ikuyo suggested looking in a quiet, damp, and gloomy place, exactly the kind of spot Bachi preferred when she was overwhelmed. Sure enough, they found her near the trash disposal area, looking nervous and unsure. After taking Bachi out of her hiding spot, the group decided to walk around the festival to help her relax and build her confidence. Eventually, it was time for Bachi to fulfill her class duties at the maid cafe. Although she served customers with a worried expression at first, her friends cheered her on, and Bachi managed to do her job. Before leaving, they visited the performance venue and silently hoped for a big turnout for Kesika Band's first school festival performance. That evening at the studio, the group practiced for the next day's performance. During the session, Bachi was stunned by how much Ikuyo's guitar skills had improved in such a short time. Though surprised, she decided not to overthink it. All that mattered to her was delivering a smooth and successful performance the next day. The day of Kesika Band's school festival performance had finally arrived. Bachi felt the pressure to perform her best, as this could be a turning point for the band. If a music producer happened to be in the audience, it might lead to their big break. To ease their nerves, the group huddled together backstage, chanting their cheer and sharing a few encouraging words. As the performance began, Ikuyo spoke words of encouragement to the group, and they stepped onto the stage. Their first song was a hit. The audience was entertained and visibly impressed by their energy and synchronization. However, Bachi seemed unusually subdued. Unlike her usual self, she lacked enthusiasm, her mind distracted. It turned out that her guitar was malfunctioning, which was a big problem since she was scheduled to perform a solo during the second song. Kikuri, watching from the crowd, noticed the issue but knew the show had to continue. As the second song began, disaster struck. Bachi's guitar string snapped, making it impossible for her to play her solo. Panic washed over her as she feared this would ruin the entire performance. But Ikuyo, who had been practicing hard, stepped up and seamlessly filled in to keep the song going. However, Bachi quickly improvised. Spotting a bottle Kikuri had used earlier, she used it to create a unique sound for her solo. The audience was mesmerized. Bachi's unconventional guitar playing became the highlight of the performance, showcasing her creativity and talent in a way she had never imagined. For the first time, Bachi felt a surge of confidence. Overcome with excitement, She leaped off the stage into the audience, imagining a triumphant moment. Unfortunately, no one was ready to catch her, and she fell to the ground, fainting on impact. When Bachi regained consciousness, she found herself in the school clinic with Ikuyo by her side. Her other friends waited outside, ready to celebrate their successful performance. As they talked, Bachi realized how much Ikuyo's guitar skills had improved during the show. Ikuyo admitted she had been secretly practicing to keep up with the band. She confessed that she often felt she lacked the natural talent of the others, but she wanted to continue learning to support the group. Bachi was touched by Ikuyo's determination. The school festival came to a close, leaving the band with another memorable experience. Back at home, Bachi immediately apologized to her father for breaking her guitar during the performance. To her surprise, he wasn't upset. Instead, he praised her for her talent and promised to buy her a new guitar, proud of how far she had come. The next day, Bachi decided to quit her job at Starry since she now had enough money to focus on her music. She was thrilled at the thought of no longer serving customers, but her friends felt a little sad about her decision. That afternoon, Bachi's friends took her to a music store to pick out a new guitar. But as they approached the shop, Bachi's enthusiasm waned. She hesitated at the entrance, fearing the shopkeeper might be intimidating. Inside, Rio lightened the mood with an impromptu solo while trying out some guitars and basses, entertaining the group with her skills. Eventually, Bachi found a guitar she liked. However, her shyness kept her from approaching the shopkeeper, so Ikuyo stepped in to help. Acting as Bachi's spokesperson, Ikuyo completed the purchase. The shopkeeper smiled and told Bachi to take good care of her new guitar. So the moral of the story is, even if you're a shy introvert who hides in a box to perform, life can still throw you on stage, off stage, and straight into awkward success. Embrace the chaos. You might just rock it and maybe break your guitar,